I will call the Tuesday, May 6, 2025 City of Clermont Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Commissioner Tadona? Here. Commissioner May?
Here.
Commissioner Colby?
Here.
Commissioner Nemec?
Present.
Commissioner Bain?
Here.
Commissioner Kramer?
Here.
And Commissioner Hoisington?
Present.
All present, 7-0.
Wonderful, thank you. And before we get to the pledge, I did want to make sure, set an announcement for folks who are watching online, either live or a replay. The camera that normally gets the dais area here just went out and is no longer working. So you're not having technical difficulties just for you. It's actually a technical difficulty for the camera here in City Hall. So there are still two cameras working, the podium and the screen. So what's going to be, you can see who's at the podium, you can see what's being put on the screen, but you can't actually see the dais up here. You can't see the commissioners as we speak. So you'll be able to hear us but not see us. So I just want to make sure everyone was aware of that. And at this point, we will stand as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let's move to the minutes and approval of those from April 1st, 2025. Everyone should have had a chance to read those. Is there a motion from a commissioner to approve?
I motion to approve the minutes from April 1st.
Moved by Commissioner Kramer,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Colby. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye as well. Minutes pass 7-0. We will move then to reports, and we will start tonight with Commissioner Hoisington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last gathering, I attended the council meeting last month. I also attended the Kiwanis prayer breakfast on Friday. That was extremely touching. Very, very good breakfast. And today I had the pleasure of attending the lunch with the mayor. That was extremely informative as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Tadona.
Good evening, everyone. At last council meeting, I gave out to the city council the documentation for the traffic concurrency and mobility fees. There was a statement made that developers do pay fees. The mobility fee, traffic concurrency, is different than the impact fees. I just want to make sure that is clear. These fees more hold the developers accountable for their impact on our infrastructure. I spoke to a realtor friend of mine. I just felt like throwing this out there. So single-family homes from last year in Clermont are down 3.8%, but yet townhomes and condos are up 11%. It's a little bit too early to tell what kind of impact that has on us. It could be interest rates. Certainly another 15,000 plus homes to be built in Clermont is going to put a lot of inventory that might affect us somewhere down the road. Today, I'm trying to be a better planning and zoning member, so today I started a class online with Ohio State University. It's called the Municipal Planning and Zoning Practice. It's a 6-week online self-paced certification course. I'm happy to attend it. I want to get better at what I do. Sometime in the fall, Michigan State University has a similar class, which I'm going to take. Again, just to try to get better at what I do, being sitting up here. On a interesting note, one of the things that we never talked about with new construction is that new construction has a nasty habit of relocating rats. I live in Fox Chase. There's a new county development going on down the road. I'm not too sure what the law is or what different statutes are, but it doesn't look like the developer took too much care in securing our retention pond, because we now have rats going into the retention pond behind Fox Chase, and they're just popping out all over the storm sewers, all over our HOA. So something else we might want to consider when we're starting to look at things being developed and stuff. What wildlife or nasty wildlife are we moving around and exiting from that area? I reached out to the Florida DOT. I have a link if anybody is interested in it for their green book. So the Florida DOT for 2025 is like 1,600 pages long. No one is going to read it. However, they do offer a 90-minute free webinars, and it's actually a certificate course. If anybody who wants it, it's a 6-part webinar series, and it gives you an idea of how to look into that green book. Apparently, the Florida DOT Green Book is still highly regarded in terms of transportation and the design of developing properties around state roads. The last thing I just want to bring up, and maybe this is just a new guy kind of thing, I don't know if it's ever been discussed before. I think it's kind of weird that I can't go visit a site and take a look at it. Before I came down here, I was actually a community liaison for capital improvement projects for the New York City Department of Design and Construction, and my job was to go around looking at different sites, looking at different projects, and knock on doors and talk to people. Hey, do you know this is coming? How is it going to impact you? Just want you to know your water's going to be shut down and things like that. So I don't know if it's something that's ever been brought up before. Certainly, there is an incredible amount of knowledge on this council that I would love to be able to tap that I can't. I just can't talk to them. So again, it kind of segues into the education part, because I am basically trying to make a decision on 3 paragraphs of a description, well done, by the way, that I know nothing about this area, and unless I actually took a walk and said, you know, this is there, that's there. I don't even know if I'm allowed to go to Google Maps to get a better picture to see what's going on. So I don't know if that's something that's ever been brought up, but, and I'm sorry if it's the first time, but that's where I'm at. I just want to get better at this, and it would be great to be able to have a couple of mentors around. I know I could speak with John anytime I want, but that's me in a nutshell this month, sir.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner May?
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that you're actually doing a class to make yourself a little bit better, which is great. I don't know about the Ohio state laws versus Florida, but you know, if there's something that's available in Florida, it would be great. So I think that's awesome, and I appreciate that you're actually doing something to kind of improve yourself, but also to be able to speak and vote accordingly for the community. So that's awesome. I haven't, I would just want to report that I haven't been able to attend city council this month because I've been busy with my son playing golf. So he's a golf competitor, but I have been following up on the legislative updates and Tallahassee. So what I put in front of you all, and I know that our city council had talked about it a little bit because I did watch them on TV in regards to the Senate Bill 1730, which is also known as the new Live Local Act. So I wanted to provide some summary, one from the Florida League of Cities legislative bill summary to make it easier and kind of educate ourselves on what is coming because it was approved. And I also added another update, and this was actually from a person that I actually know. He is an attorney who actually helped write the first bill and had to continue improving onto the bill. So the Live Local Act, which is Senate Bill 1730, was passed on May 1st and will become law unless it's either signed earlier or vetoed by the governor. So there are some changes that are coming. There's a list that made it a little bit better. I think the second copy here by Bills in the Summary kind of gives you an idea of some of the added items that were added to the LLA. One in particular is that a plan unit development, a PUD parcel now is qualifying under the LLA. So it used to be just commercial, industrial mixed use, but mixed use without residential. Now, I think they clarified mixed use a little bit more with some residential, and then now it's planned unit development. It's on page 2, but I just wanted to give everybody some reading. You can read it whenever you have time, but I think it's important that we all are all educated and educate ourselves like what our fellow commissioner here is doing, just improving ourselves to make more ideal and better decisions being up here as a planning and zoning commissioner. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Colby.
Yeah, I want to thank the previous commissioners for these reports, good information, but I have no report. Thank you.
Commissioner Nemec?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to piggyback off of Commissioner Colby. I'd like to thank Commissioner Tadona and Commissioner May for these excellent, going above and beyond. I mean, I couldn't be prouder than a commission board right now. I'd like to ask the council a question, but I don't know if it's appropriate to do it in public, or you know exactly what I'm going to ask you.
I mean,
So
that
why
depends
don't
on
you
the
just jump in
question.
on it?
It depends on the question.
I'm going to be asking about visiting the site, not on top of the grounds. I'm talking about the surrounding areas.
I think that's a really important thing for us to talk about whenever the chair determines that's appropriate.
Okay, please, let's do that. Okay, from that point, I have no other questions. Thank you, council. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just want clarification. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Kramer.
Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, I just wanted to thank Chairman Bain for his steady leadership the last few meetings and keeping everything focused and productive. In our last meeting, we worked through some really complex things, and I appreciate the respect that we showed each other. And I wanted to say to Commissioner May that while we don't always agree on everything, I will tell you, I learned a lot from your passion and your knowledge, and it really helps me. That kind of honest, informed exchange is valuable, and I look forward to continuing that same level of thought and commitment. So thank you.
Wonderful. For my report, I too attended the Kiwanis Prayer Breakfast and found it to be incredibly informative and meaningful, especially to hear about Building Blocks Ministries and the work that they do for adults with disabilities in our community and helping them remain and be an integral part of our city. One of the commissioners asked if I could give an update on the Wellness Way MSTU workshop. So the county hosted a workshop. Unfortunately, it was during the same time as our last city council meeting, and it was in Tavares, and it was about Wellness Way. And so the good news is that it's available on the county's website. If you go to Lake County's government website, go to the meetings under the county board area, and go back to the Wellness Way meeting, you'll see the replay. There's a little like video icon that you can click on and go and look at the video. I think it's about an hour and a half worth of workshop. And it wasn't just about the MSTU. It was about Wellness Way broadly. About planning. They had Kathleen Dial from Economic Development present, and then there were some materials specific to the actual MSTU and some discussion related to that. So I encourage everyone here and anyone listening to go out to the Lake County's website to see that so that they could get an update if you were not able to attend, especially due to the conflict with the city council meeting. Any staff report? I think one item that did come up, potentially having a future agenda item on visiting sites and grounds. What I'd like to do, given that may lead into a lot of conversation and information, and I also want to provide our city attorney the opportunity to present or prepare some materials to present if need be, to put that on the next future agenda, that we have a lighter business load so that we can add that to the end, similar to what we did for the training that you did for us a couple of months ago, if that works with everybody.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just want a simple answer. Where's it in writing saying I cannot drive around the neighborhood?
Lots of cases. So
No, is it in writing?
it's
Yeah,
It's in writing.
And I don't, and that's what I don't want to do.
If I could just have the statute,
Yep.
I'd be more than happy to drop it.
And I think he's provided some statutes. I don't want to create that conversation here without it being a noticed portion of the conversation, an agenda item. That's not just a report, that's actually a discussion on a specific item, and I'd like to make sure
Okay.
that we have that
No
noted.
problem, Mr.
Just-
Chairman.
just
You're the
so-
chairman of the board.
just so that we're clear on that, so that everybody knows that that's going to be talked about.
And Mr.
then
Chair,
give
I-
you the opportunity to
I-
provide.
I would love that. I'm ready to speak about it at any time, but I would like to prepare written, so if, proof of life, if you don't believe it, check it out for yourself.
Yep.
Also, see the movie Juror Number 2 that came out last year. Great movie. It illustrates the principle. So, thanks.
Okay. So,
One
so
report for you.
what's that, Ms. Henshaw?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I just have one quick staff report when you're ready.
Yes, yeah. So I think if you could work, Mr. Henschel, if you could work with Mr. Waugh to
Absolutely.
one of the upcoming agendas, hopefully in the near future. I don't want this in, October, but if it can be in the near future where we have a lighter new business load, if we could add that on the agenda.
Just a FYI, typically that the next month's agenda is already kind of somewhat prepared, so it's
Yep.
likely going to be 2 months out.
Okay, all right. And if there is material that, Mr. Waugh, you want to present and email us?
I'll just email it.
That's fine too.
Yeah.
But if we could still have it on the agenda, people can bring it, we can discuss it and open and have that conversation so that everybody's, feeling good about where we stand. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. Any other reports?
Just real quick one, I
Yes.
just want to introduce Mr. Nick Gonzalez over here. He's our Planning and Economic Development Officer. Nick will not be in that chair in the near future. I plan to have him right here where I'm at, presenting to you. So again, I just wanted to welcome Nick here tonight.
And
Welcome.
do you want to also let folks know that Kathy's not with us?
Yes.
With the city.
Kathy Hurd, who was over there, yes, she has moved on to the city clerk of Ocoee. She had an opportunity she could not turn down. We wished her well. She's a fabulous employee. Fortunately, I do have another employee next month I'll introduce to you when she gets here.
Yep.
She's worked with us before. She'll be able to pick up where Kathy left off and keep cruising.
Awesome, thank you. So you may see a new email name and address
Yes.
next month with the agenda materials.
Ray Chidlow is her
Ray,
name,
okay.
yes. She'll
Ray
be starting
Chidlow.
tomorrow, actually.
Awesome, great. All right, with that, we'll move right into new business. This is the portion, let's see, so we'll start with item number 1, ordinance number 2025-011, the Heritage Square, Florida rezoning. This is to consider rezoning a vacant property on 12th Street and State Road 50. Mr. Henschel.
Excuse me, this is known as the Heritage Square rezoning. The applicant, Tom Kovacs, is requesting a rezoning to the C2 General Commercial Zoning to remove the previously approved planned unit development, which is ordinance 2019-47, which was for a distillery with a tasting room, restaurants, and retail shop. The vacant 6-acre parcel, previously used as a steel fabrication site, is located at the northeast corner of State Road 50 and 12th Street, which is what you see before you. Again, Highway 50 on the bottom, 12th Street to the west of the site. This is the 6-acre site. The property was rezoned from M1 industrial to the PUD in November of 2019 by City Council. As part of the PUD, the applicant requested 7 waivers to the Land Development Code in order for this development to be considered. The applicant is willing to remove these entitlements at this time and seeks to develop the property under the direction of the permitted C2 general commercial uses, since the distillery is no longer a viable option. The applicant also purchased a small portion of the adjoining property at the southeast point that is now incorporated into this request. This small pie-shaped piece is currently zoned M1 industrial, and the applicant wishes this piece to be rezoned to C2 general commercial as well. So what you see, this is the current zoning map. This small piece down here, it's still zoned M1 industrial as the neighbor property, and the remaining of the site is PUD. The request is to, again, make it all This is a red indicates C2 general commercial. The property has a future land use of commercial, which aligns with the C2 general commercial zoning. The applicant, at the time of securing users for the site, will be required to go through the site review process and meet the land development code. If a variance is needed, or if a use is a conditional use, then the applicant will be required to seek council approval, which would come to planning and zoning prior to city council. With that, staff does recommend approval of ordinance 2025-11.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please, and present any materials you would have for us to consider.
Good evening, everyone. It's Keith Kovach, 17304 Pesci Loop in Montford, Florida. So we had originally had this PUD requested for the distillery. Unfortunately, that is no longer viable due to legislation in the state of Florida. That plan fell through. At this point, we are looking to rezone it as C2 commercial. We do not have any imminent plans or contracts in place right now, but as it is a PUD for distillery, it makes marketing this piece of land a little bit more difficult unless we find another distillery. So a lot of our potential tenants or potential buyers would like to see that it is in fact commercial before even entering discussions. So that is the reason we don't have a site plan yet, but why we are requesting rezoning now.
Okay. And if you wouldn't mind, we're going to have a public portion of this agenda item, just sticking around, and if we have additional questions from the commissioners, please be available for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. This is the portion of the meeting for a public hearing on item number 1, ordinance number 2025-011, Heritage Square, Florida rezoning. Is there anyone here in the audience who would like to speak on this matter? If so, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and limit your remarks to this item only. Thank you.
Yes, Charlene Harrison, 4th, DeSoto Street, Clermont. And by the end of the week, Mr. Wall, can I please have where you are saying about they can't go by and see the property and drive by? Because I've been coming here for 34 years. I've been out with our planning and zoning, standing in front of it, including my husband that sat on planning and zoning 20 years ago. I don't know of any statute, any rule, or anything in our whatever you can't get your eyes on. If you can't see something, there's no way. I don't know what that is. It may be case law, and that's your opinion, but I'd like to have that by the end of the week, please. That's not cool, not cool at all. I'd like to ask if maybe I'd give just a minute or two. There's nobody here. It's the only thing you got on the agenda. I'll do it quick. I've got pictures of what's going on in our neighborhood where this is going to go, and it's going to impact us 100%. All of our lives are being taken away around us, so I'd like to do that.
Yes, do you have those photos that can be turned
Yes,
into the
and
clerk?
I've got the copies to turn
Okay.
into the city. Yep.
Okay,
and
yeah,
it'll
as
be-
long as it relates to this item, I have no problem with that.
Absolutely, okay. And you can blow them up as big as you can for them so they can see, or you gotta light, yeah, maybe I have to do this, Kurt, right? Because I want to show these, yeah, where, yeah, go ahead. First of all, this is what's going on in our neighborhood right now, and the reason why is, and I'm gonna give and show y'all a map in just a minute so you can see what these two gentlemen that are smart asked about going to see the property. This piece of paper and this stuff that these people give to you tells nothing. That's not what real life is. That isn't, and that's wrong. So I'm gonna take it on tonight, and I know people know me from the council. Unfortunately, I live in this neighborhood, and I've had to fight it my whole life. We're up 3 times a year trying to fight the crap that goes on around us. And I can say this, it's not wrong. The developers and the investors and whatever, they're not in the business about doing anything to protect our life or make it better or not harm it. They're in the business to make as much money as they can and laugh and sing all the way to the bank, because that's just what they do. Does it make them criminal? No. Do we like it? No. But it is what it is. But we all matter. And for all of y'all and our council, we come first before anybody else. What I can tell you about this is what's starting on our street. That is from 10th Street down here all the way to 12th, the whole block was 25 cars end to end. That is the American Legion down there. Okay, now the overflow in downtown for all of the activities that I walk out and love, and we all do. We're now fighting with the city right now. Mr. Wall's aware of this. My husband had to take a little pause back to a medical issue, and then we're going to probably sue the city over this. And so that being said, they load up all in our streets. We have been living there for 34 years, and when that was the Exeltech fabricating, there was only 6 employees that went there. They were no impact. In fact, at night, I love to hear them tinging on the steel going ting, ting. It almost sounded like kind of the bells down there at the Catholic Church. It was nothing that was probably anything to us. All right, so this is what's going on. And then I'm just going to slide these through real quick so you can see, and then I'm going to tell what and how this will impact. There's 2 more where you can see them end to end. There's a car coming down the street, going head to head with one. You can't even get down the street. These are little 2-lane streets, and this is residential all around this area. Okay, next one.
We are going to get how this relates to this
Yes, I'm
specific
going to tell
item.
you how this is going to impact us.
Can we get to that point, please?
That's what I'm doing, Mr.
Okay,
Bain.
yes, please, thank you.
I heard you're maybe running, so you might want to pay attention, sir. This is what the public does. We come in here and try to tell you.
I'm listening to you, and I give deference to folks to speak, but you need to stay to the topic, so
I
please
am
talk
staying
about
to
this
the topic,
particular
sir.
topic.
We live there, and we're going to try to tell
Okay.
you how this impacts us.
Okay,
Is there a part of that you don't understand?
you have another minute,
Because maybe I'm
ma'am.
not clear enough.
You have another minute.
Okay, so there you go. There's the other cars. You can see blocking mailboxes, blocking driveways. This is going down 11th Street where this project is going to be. There's all of that. Okay? Here's more of it behind it, right where this project's going to go. See, you guys didn't get to see this because they're trying to tell you you can't go out and see it, and no, that is not true. So there you go. Now, I'm going to show you what the real thing looks like and not what you have in your packet. And then I'm done. This, Kurt, if you can, I don't know if you can either put it down or where they can see the whole thing. Okay, this right here is the project. This is all of our neighborhood with residential. Catholic Church, baseball field. There's the American Legion that's blocking up the street. Okay, now here's the massive yard down there at the lumber yard. They're going to do massive apartments. There's coming soon more apartments there. Coming soon more apartments there. There's another thing for the church down there. Here's apartments right here. And then God bless these people over here near this project. They are very low income. Tracy Wade rents to them that nobody will rent to them. They don't matter. I have the letters from my neighbor. Here's what it says. No one has to live like this and be in danger. I'm ending, Mr. Bain. An endless row of cars on parking on all 3 forcing to waste us to drive into another car. We have even had driveways blocked. Safety along with mine, other residents is critical. Then, been blocked in our driveway multiple times over all of this kind of stuff going on. Last 8 years since we purchased our home, turning 100 years old. Main draw of buying our home was this quaintness of our beloved downtown. We're in the historic district, the old district. And I've got my neighbors down there, Mr. Bain, telling us, and I come down because they're still out there on Highway 50 right now, trying to get home to work. I've been retired since I was 32 years old, okay? So I come fight this. But let me tell you, are you kidding me, you guys? Maybe there's 4 of you that have some kind of compassion in there and some kind of reasoning about it, that to go from this in a low-impact industrial to this highest thing, you right now, and I want y'all to take a look on 12th Street.
I am going to ask you to wrap up, Ms. Forth.
I made you a traffic light right there.
I'm going to ask you to wrap
If I,
up, please.
if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd grant her more time if she needs it. This, to me,
Do you
will
see
base my
what, there's
decision.
nobody.
I understand, but when you spend the majority of your time talking about a project that's not included in this, I'm not inclined to do that. We can focus on
This
this
is the
project.
project.
I know, but you just now got to that.
I
You s-
what?
You just now got to that. You were
I'm
talking
trying to
about
show
the
you if
American
this
Legion
pro-
and other
You know
projects
what,
that has
sir?
nothing to do with this. I'm
If you
giving
go
you
to
some
run, I will
deference.
spend 24/7 to make sure you
Okay.
don't get elected.
Thank
Okay,
you.
because let me tell you something, sir. It's time for you to listen. You've seen me in the council before. Reason why people like me come down to fight this, I'm showing you the reality,
Okay.
Mr. Bain.
I appreciate that. Thank you
This-
very much.
This project will infect it.
Ms.
and
Forth, thank you very much. Thank you.
So all of y'all understand, going to the highest intensity.
Mr. Chairman, I would be happy to grant it if this is dealing with this project. And according to the
This is our
picture-
life, Mr. Bain,
I
not
do
yours.
understand
Excuse me,
that. I'm talking to the
Not
chairman,
yours.
ma'am.
I understand
And
that.
the reason why
No,
I'm
you
asking
don't, and
to
there's
grant him
nobody
more
in this
time-
hall.
Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to stop,
I gotta
please.
stop.
There's nobody in the hall. You're going home early.
I'm going to ask you to stop, please. Please.
Now,
I-
well, then why don't you be civil to my neighborhood and me and trying to tell you what's going on?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, let me pull these copies out for you.
Yeah, Mr. Nemec.
One here, yep.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask this individual, Ms. Forth, if I could ask you a question?
I'm sorry.
A quick question.
Yes, sir.
You made a statement before, those pictures you shown, that they're on 10th Avenue. And I didn't catch it, I'm sorry, my hearing's going with my
They're on
age.
DeSoto, 11th, and 10th is where everything.
So it's going down, away from the project, or going towards 12th? Because I'm not too sure what you
It's
said.
doing both. It's doing both. And then 12th Street loads up every morning and every afternoon because of these
And
projects.
12th Street was some of those pictures you shown?
I'm sorry?
Was it 12th Street or 11th Street on those pictures you shown?
Actually, you know what?
Because that to me is important.
It might
because
be
that's-
easier for, yes, thank you. It might be easier for her to show that. site.
There it is. Okay.
Okay.
Tell me what your question is, Mr. Nemesek.
Nemec, ma'am,
I'm
it's
sorry,
okay.
I can't
I'm
say your
used to
name.
it in my life.
I've never been able to say your name. I'm sorry.
Okay, pretty much those pictures you shown. Are any of those pictures located at a project, like, for example, on 12th Street? Or, I know you said 11th Street, but on 12th Street? Yeah, that street, right there.
Right. Yep. What is it, your question?
Those pictures
Where are those cars parked on those pictures? What street?
what street, you showed 4 pictures, ma'am.
Oh, where the cars were.
Yes, ma'am, calm down.
Okay,
It's-
they are all down DeSoto, all the way to 10th.
Okay.
And then around 10th, up to Juniata, and 11th, all around this project. That's why it was rejected before, because there was no way for these people to come out, and they would have been cutting all through our neighborhood. And then they would load up on 12th Street, that loads up every morning. If you can see that, it backs all the way down to Lake Hiawatha. I mean, end to end, and then it's same
Okay,
thing at
Mr.
night.
Chairman, I'm good.
All right,
Thank you, Ms. Forth, I appreciate that.
Okay, now, make sure I got the same, that other one there.
And then, Mr. Henschel, are you taking the copies for the clerk, or?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I'm doing here, yeah.
thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Ordinance number 2025-001, item number 1?
Because I read from these.
Again, this is a public hearing. Anyone in the audience who else would like to speak on this item? Seeing no one else, I will close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission for consideration. And tonight, we'll start with Commissioner Hoisington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
I'm somewhat confused, based on the presentation that we just received. There has not been a specific project for this parcel, correct?
Okay, so
We're just
there's not a
changing the-
project before you, there's a rezoning before you, there's no planned project at this
Okay.
time. There was, in 2019, a PUD that was approved for a project, it was a distillery at that time.
Right, and all of the approvals before the applicant is waiving those, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm trying to understand what was just presented to us as the potential harm to the area when we don't know what's going there.
Correct.
Okay, that's, okay.
Can we hear everything that's under C2 it could be?
Yep. Go right ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, I just needed that clarity so that I can hear the other discussion and make a sound decision, because I was somewhat confused. I didn't read anything here what the applicant was proposing to put there, just looking at the different zoning in which they could put something, and then looking at what was presented to us with the traffic, not sure how we can assume what the impact would be if we don't know what's going there. Am I going in the right direction?
I hear what
Okay.
you're saying.
That's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tadona?
Thank you. I'm of the mindset that downtown Clermont is kind of losing its cozy feel. I'm already of the mindset that we've got too many commercial projects going on down there. So the way I see a PUD is that it's means an area with a specified minimum contiguous acreage, a specified land development code, single entity containing a system of structures, but there's great care in open spaces, yards, building setbacks, buffer strips, and so on and so forth. To the presenter's point, once we go to a C2 general commercial, the first line on the intent says the C2 district is intended for a full-scale retail sales and service needs of the community. And to me, that is a very scary interpretation. I don't know who's interpreting what the community needs down in downtown Clermont, but you're looking at stuff like retail businesses, strip malls, restaurants and lounges, hotels, motels, shopping centers, and allow me to just say so, when I look at this, it reminds me of exactly what's going on down the block from me with a hotel, childcare, and all this other stuff. And I think the scariest part is I now am taking part of a project that is going to lay dormant while we shop users, and then 3-5 years from now, this is just going to be an absolute nightmare spilling out onto the surrounding streets. So if those pictures are any, with all due respect, ma'am, if those pictures are actually representative of what's going on when an Elks Club has a meeting, how is that also going to impact when the church grows, when these baseball fields go up? And apparently there's other projects going on in there. I hate to go back to my mobility fees and traffic surveys, but to me, this agenda item represents a perfect example of why we need mobility fees and a traffic survey, and somebody should do something that, based on what they want to put there, and I realize they keep saying they don't know, how much traffic, how much more volume is that going to have to be able to absorb? I don't know much about a lot of the back roads of Clermont, but the 12th Street is also known as 561. And I know I could run 561 all the way up to Tavares. So I can only imagine at 561 being a major thoroughfare from 50 all the way up to Tavares, maybe going around a lake or something. This is just going to be an absolute gridlock. This is going to make Times Square look like a walk in a park. So that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner May?
Thank you. So what I see here, and where I'm more comfortable, is that I actually know what is going to be built based on the PUD. Because it's defined in the original PUD. And what it says is, we're going to have up to six buildings with a maximum of 60,000 total square feet. Their permitted uses are commercial, office, retail, restaurants, bottling and warehouse, spirits, alcohol production, distillery, bars, and any other distribution associated with the distillery. It's all defined. So the PUD, of course, I wasn't around in 2019, and this was approved. So we can't go backwards. We have to go forwards. Now going forward is that now we're going from a PUD to a C2. And I understand that the future land use allows for commercial. But what I don't like, and to me, it's like putting the cart before the horse, is that we are doing a rezone of a project, of a property, not a project, of a property that we don't know what's going to happen on that property. For me, I'm comfortable because it says right here on this PUD what they're building. But on a C2 and a rezone, we don't know what they're going to build. We just don't. We understand there's permitted uses under the C2, and we understand that there's conditional use permits. And yes, it does go back to us. But if they want to get a rezone of the property, they need to come to us and tell us what they plan to build. And then I'll feel comfortable, because I have to really understand and help the residents, just like this lady that came up to speak. you know, I have to see and hear and look and make sure that it's appropriate for that location with the traffic surveys and all that. And I know that there was a traffic survey that was required as part of this PUD, so I never saw it. I don't know if that's available as public record. But I would like to ask some questions to the owner if it's possible. If he's here, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So were you the owner who applied for the previous, the PUD?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that you were planning to do what you were planning to do, however, there was some legislation in Florida that changed on distilleries. Can you kind of let me know that?
Yes, absolutely. So what we were going to do was what's commonly referred to as a craft distillery. That would be a distillery that would allow the community to come in, tour it, take samplings, things like that. From a financial model, however, Florida had on the floor on the House to pass legislation that would increase the amount of gallonage that we would be able to produce. It would also allow us to serve, similar to how a brewery or a winery where you could serve and sample. At this time, Florida did not have that. They had, you could give away as much as you wanted as a sample, but you were not allowed to charge by the glass. So you had to go through third-party distributor. So that legislation was on the table, and when that fell through, it became not as much of a financially viable plan to go through with the distillery.
Got it. Okay. And then, but that was basically the main idea for that site
Yes.
that you wanted. So is that why it's on the market? You know, I'm a commercial broker. I'm on the computer all the time, you know, on the MLS, you know, on Crexy and
Sure.
CoStar
Yep.
and all the, you know, all that stuff. And I see that, you know, it's on the market. So are you planning to sell it? Or do you plan, so my confusion is, okay, if you get the C2, do you plan on keeping it and then building?
Yes, if we get the C2, I mean, the plan is to develop it in some way. But as I said, it's harder to market that to, you know, various potentials when they see that it's a PUD for a distillery. They want more comfort in knowing that, okay, you already have land that is zone C2. We can proceed with discussions on plans as to what to do. Also, just referring back to the previous presenter in terms of traffic and parking on the street and whatnot, you know, as you all mentioned, this does come back to planning and zoning anyway. Whatever we do there is going to have adequate parking. We're not trying to, you know, create, you know, more traffic or anything like that. I mean, we're on Highway 50. There's lots of commercial there. There's commercial zoning right next to that piece. As for what the American Legion is doing in terms of planning and everything, I don't know. I don't have any power over that, but with our site, I can say we're going to be diligent. We're going to submit a site plan once we have something down the line, and that will be there for your consideration.
So my other question is that the PD was already done, but you also can amend a PD, not have to go through rezone, but you can amend a PD and remove the distillery and be able to come in front of us. Because you already have the density. So you have 6 buildings approved, up to 60,000, what is it? 60,000 square feet, right, on the PUD, right?
I think a majority of that would have been
Sorry,
the-
60,000 total square feet,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you go to C2, then that kind of downgrades, doesn't it? I mean, I'm asking the staff, I mean, does that?
Yeah, sure.
You are correct. C2, anything over 20,000 square feet would require a conditional use permit.
So wouldn't it be easier for you to amend your PD?
That's the applicant's choice.
Yeah, that's what I'm, because is the PD amendment, is it a longer process than going through a rezone?
An amendment is another PUD essentially. We can call it an amendment, it's the same process.
Okay.
It's actually a little longer because it's an ordinance.
It's longer
Yes,
to do a
it's a
PD
zoning.
amendment than going through a rezone.
Well, they're both ordinance changes, so it's really about the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if I have any other questions here. And on the PD, it did say that there was a traffic survey as a condition. We do have that as, I'm asking the staff, we do have a survey, or let me ask the owner, did you do a survey as part of the PD?
As part of the PD, yes, there was a traffic study done, and I believe there was another one recently done.
It would be great if we can have that copy. I wish that copy would have been in here, because that would have been great for us to see that traffic impact study. That's pretty important, especially with what the resident had said about the issues with parking, with the traffic and parking and legions and all that stuff that's happening in that neighborhood. So, and for me, I'm going through the PD, and I know that you submitted this PD, and I see, you know, again, the conditions were added, there's a site plan. So for me to feel comfortable on a rezone, and I know on the application, and I went up over this with our staff, on a rezone application, because we only have a one pager here that just shows the name of the applicant and all that, but if you go to the first page of the rezone application, it does require an applicable site plan to be included with the rezone. So for me to feel comfortable with this project and to provide a C2, I would like to see what is projected or what is planned. And any buyer who buys your property, because listen, I'm experiencing that. You know, contracts are contingent on site plan approvals. Mm-hmm. A buyer through you can come to the planning and zoning and say this is, or do they do their pre-applications, you know, with the planning and zoning, will this work? Mm-hmm. And then you come to us, this is what the project is. And then that would be the rezone. But for me right now, I just don't know what's gonna happen there. I know what's happening with the PUD, but I just don't know what's gonna happen on this property for me to have an educated, I don't know, just a feel-good vote on this. Mm-hmm. So for me, this is going to be a no. And thank you for your time, sir.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Commissioner Colby?
Yes, I think it's a very important piece of land in the city. I was on the commission when this was passed in 19, and I believe that it was appealing to a lot of people because, you know, this is our western gateway. And having something that's a destination spot, something that's beautiful, you know, for a lot of reasons, people like this project. The church next door was on board, yeah. and really, you know, I think we would showcase the entrance to Clermont. And you know, I understand the apprehension that some folks have because, you know, we just don't want this to be like another eyesore. And
sure.
we were the folks who were sitting up here that said, yes, you know, let's just move with that. If there's a way to work within what you have, but I think it is a lot to ask us as a commission to just, you know, kind of, you know, blindly, you know, change zoning and whatever we might get. So I'd appreciate, you know, a little bit more thoughtful process and really thinking about what this is going to be, what it is, the impact on the community. I mean, we have a piece of dirt, and I've tried not to look at it when I drive by, but it's been there for quite some time. And you know, going back 6 years to when this was approved. So I think you know, trying to be thoughtful in the process and thinking what this would be and make this, you know, really an amenity for the community, something that would be a win-win. You know, I happen to, you know, I'm familiar with this developer. You did a great project that's coming in 50 on the east side of Clermont. You know, certainly you guys do fantastic work. But I think, you know, as a commission, we'd like to have a little bit more certainty, or at least I'll only speak for myself. I would like to have a little bit more certainty what we're buying into, and a little bit more of a concept and how it's going to impact the entire community. Is this what we want when people drive in to Clermont and embrace it? So sure. I have, you know, a bit of apprehension just saying yes, which, you know, we're gonna make it this zoning and see what happens, and then, you know, we you know, have to drive by something that might not really represent the city and be something we don't want to look at for the next 30 years. Sure. So thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could I just jump in and provide a little bit of counsel to the commission?
Yes, please.
What I want to just brief y'all about is you have standards in your code for things that you have to consider on rezoning applications. And so it's really three things. One is whether the proposed rezoning is justified by changed or changing conditions, whether adequate sites already exist for the proposed district uses, in this case C2, whether specific requirements of this land development code are adequate to ensure compatibility with adjoining properties as required by the comp plan. The reason why I want to point that out is to the extent that you make a decision, if it is your pleasure to deny it, I think you have to consider those things when you make those, and you have to make findings of that on the record. That's all. Okay? Thanks.
Can you just repeat those three things for us?
Yes, and for the record, I'm looking at section 101-284, subsection 3. When considering rezoning amendments, the Planning and Zoning Commission, quote, shall consider the following criteria: whether justified by changed or changing conditions, whether adequate sites already exist for the proposed district uses, and whether specific requirements of this land development code are adequate to ensure compatibility with adjoining properties as required by the comprehensive plan. And I should say, if it's your pleasure to approve it, you have to consider those things too. So it applies regardless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask the
Yeah.
council a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a little confused. I understand, and I respect that, and thank you for that information. But you said if we're asked, you're telling me I have to tell if somebody asks me how I voted? Is that what you're telling this commissioner?
No, I'm saying that when you make a decision, you have to at least consider these three things.
Okay, no, but you said something that I have to disclose. I thought I heard that's what you said. I might be wrong. I'm getting old.
Well, that makes two of us. I only meant to interject and tell you about this
Okay, the
review
first three.
standard.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll disregard that other comment then.
I don't know that I made it, but I'm happy to clarify.
Thank God we got it on videotape.
You're good then?
I am.
Okay.
I'm good too.
And I think then we are at Mr. Nemec. Commissioner Nemec, for your portion. I think Mr. Colby was done? Yes? Or no, I'm sorry.
I am. I guess I would just, kind of clarify my concerns and trepidation are really the third point, the compatibility and the location to downtown, and this is the entrance to the city, and, I question that compatibility and trying to, do our due diligence to define what we're going to have and what is desirable. I think we get one bite at the apple, and I'm just want to make sure we make a good decision.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Nemec.
Very good points. Yes, I like to, this is why I hate sitting in the middle now, because all my good questions were asked. But according to, how are you, sir?
Doing well.
Yeah, good. A quick question. I'm a little confused, and I'm sorry. I'm just,
Yeah, no worries.
it might be me, just memory goes. According to your application, are you Thomas or you Keith?
I am Keith. I'm Thomas's son. He is
Oh,
up in
okay.
New Jersey right now.
Oh, okay, Jersey, interesting. That's where I came from. So let me ask you a question, Keith. How many, or Council, can I ask how many owners are on this lot, if I may, without getting in trouble? How many what? Owners.
You want to ask, you're asking me if you can ask
Yeah.
him how many
Yeah,
owners
very
there
simple,
are?
very simple question. How many owners own this lot?
You have the floor, sir.
Okay,
The owner is actually a trust, a family trust, of which I am the beneficiary, and my father is the trustee.
so there's only two, the answer to that question. Great, thank you. That clears a lot up, because I'm confused. I saw Thomas, and you said Keith. And you guys both live in the same household?
No, no, sir. We live in different households.
But he's,
Both over in Montford.
okay, that's the question. Thank you for reading my mind. Okay, that takes care of that one. Here's the good part. Even though I'm not, was advised not to visit the property site or surrounding areas, I happen to go to church there, and that's the church right across the street. And when that church lets out,
There's traffic.
and I look for every other way to get around it. So believe it or not, I go the opposite way. towards 561. And as I'm driving 561 to try to make a right, I noticed that there's a lot, tons and tons of coming soon signs. So even though it doesn't pertain to your project, but it pertains to that area is growing fast. Okay? And that kind of throws me off a little bit when it pertains, because what I didn't notice from staff was on the bottom, they usually write, this does not impair or is detrimental to the surrounding parcels or residents. And I didn't notice that. That's why I'm asking these questions pertaining to the packet. I'm not beating nobody up. I just want to get this so I can get a good answer out here. All right? Basically, that's answered by the applicant, the person. All right, that was asked. Thank you, Jenny. See, I'm going to be honest, after seeing all this, I feel like what in our packet, it's not, to me, it's not enough. So I have at home the rezoning or the zoning of Clermont. And if you go to this picture in my packet, you see the purple? That's in purple according to this, which you saw on the screen. I'm just bringing it to your attention. Okay? This was the only low industrial on that area. Okay? And that's what it was designed for on the comprehensive plan. So when you're telling me you have 6 acres, and I'm sorry, but I'm really confused. I don't know what's being built there.
Well,
If you could explain that to me, sir, please,
sure.
please do in the
You know,
best way.
And as I said, we don't have a contract right now. We don't have a project. All I can speak to is, as some of you've seen some of our past projects, some of our vision for projects in Clermont, we're not here to build something ugly, especially as Mr. Colby stated, this is the entranceway to the city. We're not here to increase traffic and make a giant parking lot there, or it's just something disgusting. We try and build things for the community where there is a need, right? We don't have that yet, but it is going to make it more marketable and give us more options to come back here to present to you if we move through with the zoning now.
I don't want to put you your name, so excuse me for calling you by your first name, sir.
Sure.
All right, Keith, I understand what you're saying. I know your resume. I do. I've done my research when I get my packet. I know you were part of the 60 West project, which is a beautiful building. It really is. It's bad that it's surrounded by car salesmen.
dealerships.
Car dealerships, but it's beautiful, don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying you're going to build an ugly building. My concern, and if you know who I am, I'm concerned about the surrounding areas with traffic. And that's my biggest concern. And 6 acres is a lot. Okay? But, I just feel like we're pushing out the low residential and for commercial C2. And no disrespect, I can't tell you what you can and cannot build. But my job is the rezoning, and that's all I'm going by.
Sure.
All right? I'd like to ask staff, if you don't mind, if I could ask staff a question, Keith?
Absolutely.
Okay? The small portion of land, Mr. Kurt Henschel, that you were referring to, that little pie on the bottom, when was that purchased?
Oh, I believe it was purchased. You'd have to ask the applicant
Oh,
for
you
the
don't?
date. I don't have the date of that purchase.
Okay, I'm sorry. Back to you, Keith.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I would like to say that was maybe in 2020 or 21.
Okay, so right around when you had your
Shortly
PUD
after
approved.
it was after the PUD was.
So you would have to come back to the council and the P&Z to get approval to change that as well, because you're already approved for the PUD on the large part of the land.
Only if he's using it as part of the development. He could leave it alone and not touch it. So,
I understand where
Yeah.
you're going. I do.
but
So
if
that-
he was building on it or using it for attention, if it's demonstrated he's using it for development, then yes, you'd have to.
Okay, no, I understand that, Kurt. I don't want to cut you off, That's what people say I do sometimes, and I'm trying to change.
And just for clarification, that little pie shape was purchased for the purpose of traffic, obviously. I mean, to
Keith,
have,
I like you.
to have
You're
an
very honest. I
entrance
like
off
that.
of 50. I mean,
I wish most of my
which
developers
would,
were like
again, divert people having to enter from DeSoto or 12th. You're keeping people on the highway, coming in and going out.
that. See, here's the problem I have, Keith. I'm big on traffic. I can't vote on traffic, but I sure as hell could vote on safety. Okay? I don't know where your entry points are or your exit points are. Okay? I don't know if you're coming from 50, you're coming from 12th, or you're coming from DeSoto. Or even that little trail that went down, because I saw that, I didn't know what it was, on Juanita, some, Julie, what?
Juniata.
Juniata. That's the problem I'm having, and that's my biggest concern. You could ask all these council, that's what I do. I advocate pretty much traffic for this, okay? Which I know I'm gonna probably be told to stop. Well, all right, is this property for sale right now?
It is currently on the market.
Oh, it
still.
is. How long has it been for sale?
2 years.
So that would lead us up to 2023.
Yes.
Okay, so you had your POD approved in 2019, and then 4 years later, it fell through, which I do understand why. And then you just tried to sell it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And, thank you. I think I'm going to hold my questions if I have any more. To staff, 2 questions. Okay, number one, the applicant stated there was a traffic study, a second one. When was that taken?
It was for the PUD, is, 2019, I'm guessing at the moment, I don't have that.
No, I thought okay, I'm sorry, my hearing must be going. Because I thought I heard you say there was 2 traffic studies.
Do you have the details on those? Go ahead.
I believe we were in discussions with getting a second one done. I have
Oh,
to
in
dou- I have
discussion,
to-
you didn't
I-
say the word in discussion.
I
That's-
have to double check on that.
Okay, okay, you double checked, okay, gotcha. Okay, and I would like to know, according to this, just from my own curiosity, because it's not noted in my packet, is the 7 waivers they asked for in 2019. It would have been nice if it was in my packet to see what was waived, so they could get the PUD. Now, I noticed that there was 17 or 14, I'm trying to get to it, sir, without delaying this meeting, but there was a total under 219.
I could give you what those waivers were for.
All
That's what
all
you're
7.
asking. I'm sorry?
All 7.
At least 6 of them I have here.
Well, 6 better than none.
They were for more than 10 parking spaces in a row, up to 14.
That's number 7.
The parking spaces for employees were 9 feet wide instead of 10.
That's what I said.
The allowance of removing some internal landscape islands for the employee parking area.
Okay,
There was a elimination of some landscaping in front of the buildings, not the perimeter buffer, but in front of the buildings.
okay,
Retaining wall heights,
that's what I want to ask.
10 feet. They were allowed 10 feet high instead of the 6 the code allows. And I have one for a setback from 11th Street, 15 feet instead of 25.
Okay, those are, yeah, all right, so we don't know what the 7th one is, but you covered the ones I was mostly focused on. All right, as for now, Mr. Chairperson, I do not have any more questions. I might, before we go to, or a vote with discussion.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Chairman Bain. Mr. Anchel, what was the zoning again before it was rezoned for this last project? Was it M1 at the time?
was
light
M1,
light
yes.
industrial?
Yes.
Okay. And then it was converted to this PUD to allow for what looked like a pretty cool entertainment district. And I just want to address the fact that I know with in a party environment like that, I have way more concern about the parking in that environment than I do if we switch this to C2, because I've noticed that if I'm going shopping, I probably am not going to find off-site parking. If I don't have convenient parking, I'm not stopping there. In fact, for most businesses, I'm not going to stop. if I'm going out for a drink with my friends and there's a big party going on at the distillery, I'll go park on DeSoto and walk up there if the parking's bad, because unfortunately that's what people do. They park close by. So I have way more concerns about the past than I do about the present at this point in time. The other thing is that regardless, if we do approve this to change the zoning, it comes back to us in the future. And I get the trepidation that we're having with an unknown site. But it was zoned, again, light industrial is the right term for it. But light industrial, while yes, we can hearken back to the days of yore when you could hear the tink, tink, tinking of the craftsmen working there. However, light industrial is gone from there now, and if we were to return it back even to light industrial requires low pollution, minimal noise, and limited amount of environmental impact. So even returning it back to an M1 would still, all those things would still be the same issues would come up. However, what we're talking about is C2. Unfortunately for this particular person, they made an investment, and the law changed and pulled the rug out from under them. So while I appreciate the concerns we have here, I think that the shift from the PUD to C2 zoning represents a move from a highly customized single project focus towards a flexible market-driven approach. Each one of these has its merits. The PUD offered a really controlled singular vision with special allowances, where the C2 opens the door for broader opportunities but under uniform rules. So in my opinion, the rezoning seems to be reasonable given the failure of the distillery project, but it would require the city to be vigilant in its implementation. And by minding the considerations above, that we talk about, these considerations that, the parking and the church and the, coming in off 50, Clermont's decision makers can facilitate the development on this corner and really capitalize on the pros of converting it to C2. That used a great description, a gateway to the west side of our property. And in my opinion, it seems to align with the other items on Highway 50. So it's really difficult because it's not a straightforward approve or deny on this. But I think if we were to approve, we approve with awareness, and that is ensuring that the subsequent development process addresses the nuances that you guys have brought up in this report. So I'm very open-minded on this. So thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome. I think that the comments that were made by Commissioner May and Commissioner Colby were very accurate. Sometimes it's better to work with the person you know or the thing you know versus the thing you don't know. There is some certainty in that. I also think that when we talk about this specific lot and this site, and considering other adequate sites, there may be other adequate sites for a PUD or commercial C2, but they're not at a gateway entry point to the city from the west. And so I don't have inherently, I don't necessarily have a problem with this parcel being C2, given that practically everything else around it is C2 or M1. And I think that as Commissioner May brought up, that there are some abilities to have some commercial office retail as it relates or associates with the distillery. If the distillery, and it sounds like it's probably not going to be an option given the law that didn't get put into place, that maybe an amendment, or it does come back as an actual zoning change to C2, for example, with some specifics as to what are we talking about in terms of compatibility, and are the conditions right for us to be able to say that works for that site for this project. And I think, asking for us to to do a zoning change without knowing the what is difficult. The underlying zoning itself, I don't think is necessarily the issue, or at least what I'm kind of hearing from folks. It's not a matter of having something that's commercial or light industrial or office retail kind of in that location. It's just a matter of what. And how does that work for the city, and how does that work for the neighborhood, and how does that work for the overall community in what's there? And so I think that I don't know, what the vote's going to be here. Certainly if the Planning and Zoning Commission approves it or denies it, it goes to the City Council with that recommendation. The only way this doesn't go to the City Council is if it's tabled for a future discussion with maybe more information or a presentation with new information. So I guess given the conversation and the discussion that's taken place, my question to the applicant is, do you want us to move forward with a vote at this point and make a recommendation to the council, or do you want to go back and look at, okay, provide more information with the application and the zoning application, rezoning application, so that the Planning and Zoning Commission can have a better idea of, is it justifiable, is it adequate, does it meet compatibility with the neighborhood, so that we can make a better informed decision?
At this point, I would say that tabling it at this point, I wouldn't have much new information to come back with.
Okay.
As again,
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
for
Yeah,
the purpose
absolutely.
of
And that's
bringing
why,
you more
and that's why I'm
information.
asking you that, because I mean, you have a right to present what you want to do with the property that you own, and we have to then decide what we think based off the information. And so I guess just for me at this point, given that the unknown of what commercial is going here, and is it really compatible? That's the difficult part for me. Is it this previous 2019 ordinance was for a distillery and accompanying properties and businesses that went with that distillery. So people knew what was going to be there, and it could be a destination as an entry point to the community. And it had, I think, 192 parking spots. So I think, it provided folks in the neighborhood a little bit more comfort as to, okay, if this is a XYZ business with 192 spots, hopefully we are not going to see the overflow that we see with some of the other businesses in our neighborhood that don't have as much adequate parking on site. And given those concerns, without knowing a little bit more, I think it's just it's a hesitancy. Again, not that it's not necessarily compatible for C2, but it needs to have a project associated with it, so we know what's going on with that C2 and with the compatibility. And really, are there other sites where that could go, given the location of the site?
I understand that. And as I said, the only consideration I'm asking today is that, as you said, would it be compatible to be zoned commercially? I'm not asking to make a decision and say, hey, it's zoned commercial, go do what you want. We all know I couldn't do that if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So we're going to come back, we're going to do our due diligence, we will come back, of course, and you'll have another review. All I'm asking is that this would make it much easier for us to cultivate more options to bring back to you.
Sure, and I understand that. I'm obviously as a property owner, I get where you want to make your property and parcel as marketable as possible. And I think you understand some of the reservations or concerns that have been presented here by the commissioners. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments before we move forward? Mr. Nemec, I saw you, and then I'll get to
Well, I
this
want
way.
the ladies go first because she's been taking most of my questions, but
No, I was just, I just wanted
Let
to
her be
ask
the bad
in
guy.
regards to the marketing. I mean, in the marketing that I've seen, I mean, it does say that you could go for a rezone, I guess, in your marketing flyer. So it's not like your buyers are not being swayed not to go to your property. I mean, the future land use is commercial. I think the issue for me is that I just don't know what's going to be on it.
I wish I knew too. I really do.
But I think-
I'm excited to develop
Yeah,
it
but I
and
just don't
make it something nice
understand.
for the community.
Yeah, I just don't understand where you're saying that there would be more options. I mean, I sell property, and I sell properties bigger than this. And, you know, there's always that, what can I do there? And, you know, I call city planners all the time, and we go to pre-application meetings, and it's like, can we build this? And they can tell you, well, you'll have to go for a rezone, this could be a possibility, but at least that person tries. And it makes it easier. For the sake of the residents, I just feel more comfortable that the residents know what is going to be in their backyard, especially after seeing the parking problems that, or the, I guess, traffic problems that they're having. It just would make it easier for me to vote on, so. But that's all I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to reflect. Yeah.
Commissioner Neiman?
Yes, first of all, I don't want to, Keith, if you don't mind. I'm very impressed with your presentation, the way you presented it. I think that was the most calmest way and cheerful way to bring this in front, because I have a lot of questions that were answered. I'm just, my chairperson, very good on their homework. Just a little confused when you said there was 192 parking spots. That's in the old PUD, that's not in the new
No,
C2.
yeah, no, I was talking about if it stayed the PUD.
If it stayed,
we
but
would
it's
know
not, right.
that there would be
Oh,
192
okay.
spots, and so people in the
definitely-
neighborhood might be able to have a little bit more relief knowing that there's on-site 192 spots. We don't
Right.
know if we just do a zoning change.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for clearing it up so I understand. I'm just, look, Keith, my job is to make the decisions, but I'm only one vote and one voice. And plus, I don't make the final decisions. But what I'm going based on, and I know this area because of the church, is just this, and a map of what's stone. And that's why I printed out, and I'm entitled to, the full Clermont zone. My job is to question it by saying, where does this stop? You're doing the west side of downtown. Where's it stop? Where's it gonna go? All the way to the east, where one of our commissioner lives? I don't understand this. That's what I'm saying. It seems like we're getting rid of things that really bestowed Clermont to be what it is. And look, you gave a great presentation. I'm gonna, if I could have time to think about this, I mean, honestly, this one's hard because of his presentation. But that's it, Mr. Chairperson.
Okay, thank you.
If anybody else has any questions, please.
If I
Anything
may-
else? Yes.
If I may. Mr. Henschel, the adjacent property, I don't know if you can show us, if it's possible to look at our future land use map so that we can get an idea of what's already C2 in that area. But I saw people shake their head that there's not a lot of commercial in that area. And to the best of my knowledge, that entire strip along there pretty much is C2 along 50. So
Just to be clear, this is a future land use map, not the zoning map.
Correct.
So you're right. All your commercial typically is located on your arterial roads, which is Highway 50 and 27.
So let me, if I may, so you're saying, is this, this is the piece of property? we're
That's
talking
correct,
about?
yes.
And so if I'm looking at this correct, commercial, all the way down, so in other words, this represents.
Mr. Hensel, can you point to it on the screen so folks on?
Yeah,
yes.
you're right, yep.
But, yeah, so you're pointing out the areas that are already zoned commercial, and then we're not deciding today not to change to remove the PUD. It's not, no, everything around it is already zoned commercial. Right, but everything around it's already zoned commercial, pretty much.
Most of it follows the map. If it's
Okay.
red, typically it's commercial
And
land
that's
use of sorts.
I want to make sure that that's staying typical with what's in that area. Yeah, I know that we have some high-density residential behind, north of
Yeah.
that, and I
The
understand
intent of the
that.
future land use map is to guide you where your commercial
So the,
products are going.
so the guidance would be, the intent would be that that would be commercial at some point in the future.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to be clear. So eventually, again, we're going to get the opportunity to weigh in on this again. And I feel really bad for someone owning a piece of property that their hands seem to be tied with, and I know you can sell it with these conditions in there, but I know that it'd certainly be a lot easier to sell if it was unencumbered. So I just wanted to clarify that the adjacent land, whether it is already commercial, is part of the future land use to be commercial in that area. That was my point.
And that's the dilemma for me, is that if you didn't make it C2, I don't know what else you would make it. I mean, we all want to have a good project that represents Clermont well, but I don't know what else you'd really make that property. You want it to have the right impact and be the gateway. So that's I'm very torn on this issue myself, because you'd say no, but what else would you make it? You're certainly not going to make it, go back to an industrial use there. I don't think that's great either.
Right, and if we did a C2, to clarify that though, we wouldn't see it unless there was a variance being requested or special conditions. If
Or
it was
a
straight
CUP.
or a CUP, if it was straight zoning C2, we would never see the light of day of it. City council would never see the light of day of it. It would go straight to permitting and staff. So just,
Which
I
is
think
the way
I think that's where
intended.
the hesitancy or the concern or the thought of, if there was something to go with the C2, it might help understand better what is happening here. And as the applicant has mentioned, they don't have that at this point.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on Mr. Kramer's suggestion. Mr. Kramer, if you look at the map that's staring you right in the front, all right, we're talking about 6 acres, and that 6 acres goes right into residential area, okay? You see all the red on the opposite side of 50? That's not 6 acres. Those are small communities, small acres, because of the residential area. I'm talking about the traffic and the safety on the roads. How many times do I go to city council meetings and I hear people speeding downtown? All right? And that bothers me. There's a church over there. There's young kids over there. That's what bothers me. Okay? That's the safety I'm looking at. The residential behind the 6 acres.
I appreciate the education.
No, listen, I'm not educating. I'm just, you made a comment.
I
and
saw
I'm
the
just,
same map you saw. I appreciate being educated. I'm not stupid.
Oh, this is, all right, this is a different map than the zoning map. I just want to let you know that.
I
Okay.
can read a map, but I appreciate your
Yeah, it's not getting to you.
Yep, all right. So I'm going to bring it back to the commission here and ask for a motion for us to move forward so that we can let this applicant know where this goes from here.
I'll make a motion that
Okay.
we approve ordinance number 2025-011.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Kramer to approve ordinance number 2025-011. Is there a second?
To entertain the motion, I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Nemec. Any final discussion?
Could we add a condition if we're approving this?
What's that?
That a C2 would be allowed as long as there's a site plan approved. There's a site plan that comes along with the C2. Can we do that as a council? No.
Well, I just want to make sure I understand. So you're proposing that perhaps the people who moved this motion change what they did so that there's a condition, it's allowed as C2, or you recommended to the city council that it's approved as C2 upon receipt of a site plan?
Okay, so that would go back to Commissioner Kramer on whether or not he would like to amend his motion or leave it as is to approve as presented.
If you help me walk through this, I will amend this, so.
Well, it's up to you.
But
I think as to the legality.
I think Commissioner May makes a,
I think he's trying to get some clarity from you.
Yeah, I think that's legal insofar as if it's passed as an ordinance, basically what you're saying is it would become effective upon the city's receipt of a site plan. The only thing I would say to you is, that site plan could be anything. Anything, whether valid or not, right? So I think that if you do want to ask them to put that as a condition, just based on my hearing y'all's discussion, I would think that you might want to cabin it, what that site plan would be, or something. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, the C2, just for Kramer's, I just want to let you know, C2 is open to everything. it includes also car washes. Does not include storage anymore, but it does include car washes and storage. Not storage. I'm sorry. Car sales. It opens up to other stuff that, for a gateway. Like I said, it would be more comfortable for me to know what was coming in front of us. Because C2, I know we have to approve the conditional use permit, and he'll probably have to, he might bring us some project that we just don't like, and we'll say no.
Well, it could be a site plan that's from Mars, and then it gets approved. And I don't think you would have voted for it necessarily based on that site plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing I would say is, this is just from a legal suggestion, that if that is your pleasure, I would ask that you maybe consider tabling it or moving to table if you don't feel like you have sufficient information one way or the other to vote.
Yeah.
That's just because I think that makes it easier and may address your concern, but I have heard the applicant say there's not going to be more information.
Right, and I think that,
I'll take back the condition. I don't want it on there.
yeah, I don't know that it's going to help. I hear what you're saying. I think I know what you're getting at there, but I don't know that it's going to really necessarily get to the concern in reality, as opposed to potentially just voting against it if you don't want to see that recommendation.
Right, so with the clarity, I'm removing that condition.
So we have the original motion then on the floor, and been seconded to approve the ordinance 2025-011 as presented. Any final? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed say nay.
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 And the chair votes nay as well, so the motion is not approved. Kramer voting aye, and the rest of the commission voting nay, so it fails 1-6. And this will still go to the city council and be presented at the city council for first reading, and then at their following meeting, action on that. Thank you. Okay. So then we will move to item number 2. Actually, we're going to present item 2 and 3 together, like we have similarly with items that are related to each other. But because they are ordinances, we do have to take separate votes on each ordinance. So what we're going to do is have Mr. Henschel present item 2, ordinance number 2025-017, and item number 3, ordinance number 2025-018. This is the Land Development Code Amendment and Irrigation and Landscaping Regulations. Before I turn it over to Mr. Henschel, I just want to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page with what we're doing with the first item here under 017. You'll notice that, and I read this a couple different times and did some follow-up. You won't see all of chapter 123 in this document. All that you see in these documents, and if you're following along, it's pages 29 through 37, is the sections of 123 that are being affected by the recommendations. So they did not include the entire chapter. It's just what is being amended. And the supermajority of the amendments that are being presented in here are strike-throughs to change language. And I will just bring a point to my fellow commissioners. On the top of page 32, under section 123-42, you'll see number 6. There are 4 spots where the word understory remains. And those were meant to be changed to accent, like everywhere else in this section was changed to accent. So basically, we're changing understory tree to accent tree, the language of what we're calling that tree. And there, number 6 at the top of page 32, you'll notice says may be used in place of canopy or understory. That was meant to be accent. And then there's another spot at the end of that paragraph, and then 2 more in the next paragraph.
That's what I have.
Whenever we have an motion, if we could, whoever makes that motion, include to change those spots and any other spots that were inadvertently missed, if that's okay with the city attorney, any other inadvertent spots where we forgot to change understory to accent. Just to
Chairman?
clarify that, yes.
I'm confused. Even under, in 6 itself, because I have it under 4.
It was already changed.
Right,
But-
it was already changed, that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. You
right.
said-
So, but if you read number 6, you'll see that there's 4 times the word understory didn't get the red strike through like the rest of them. And
okay.
it was meant to be done that way. It was
That's
meant to
right.
be changed to
Absolutely,
accent.
yes.
So whenever we get to that point, if we can amend that. And then also, I think that for folks who are following along and for commissioners, I know that it's referenced the landscape standards document. That was with with Kathy leaving and inadvertently left out of the packet. I believe that was emailed to all of us, and Mr. Henschel called everyone. For the public, I know if you're here, we do have copies of that if you'd like to have that. Otherwise, it will be added to this section if we can have the clerk add that to the website so that we have that in there. And then that way folks can see that information. So with that, Mr. Henschel, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, as noted, city staff is proposing code changes to the land development code regarding landscaping. These changes are focused around water conservation within the city. Several sections of Chapter 123 are being amended to create these changes. The amendments involve definition changes for tree types, soil amendment requirements, and the removal of the preferred tree list to allow for the new updated landscape materials. So that was the addendum, landscape material list. So a majority of this chapter, again, is just what you just discussed, and it's removing, this is where we used to have it used to be called preferred canopy tree lists. So we're removing those and adding them to this document, which is the standards list. This will be able to be amended easier later if we need to amend it through not an ordinance, but a
Resolution.
resolution, excuse me, thank you, yes. So that's the majority of that chapter. Now, moving on to more specifics of ordinance 2025-18, staff is also proposing code changes to the land development code regarding landscaping under chapter 18. Again, these changes are focused around water conservation within the city. These changes include, number 1, the requirement of soil amendments. This proposed change will require the addition of compost material to be added to the top layer of soil before any new landscaping material is to be introduced to the parcel. 2, the requirement of smart controllers. These are Wi-Fi based irrigation controllers that operate more efficiently when detecting weather events in the area. 3, limiting the amount of sod to be used. This limitation will limit the overall amount of non-drought tolerant sod from the current allowance of 60% to 25%. Number 4, allowing additional Florida-friendly plants to be used within the landscape. The current plant list is being revamped to a reference, again, the landscape standards, which will include all approved species along with an option to utilize the approved, it's called IFAS, Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, Florida-friendly plants. Number 5 is reducing the annual water budget for each landscaping customer from 35 inches per year to 28 inches. This is backed and supported by the St. Johns River Water Management District. City staff has met on numerous occasions with industry-leading experts that have helped craft these changes. These changes collectively will substantially contribute to water conservation measures throughout the city, which is being driven by the St. Johns Water Management District. The water conservations are a benefit to the city, the homeowner, and the residents. Staff does recommend approval of ordinance 2025-17 and 2025-18.
Okay, thank you. This is the portion of the meeting for a public hearing on items number 2, ordinance number 2025-017, Land Development Code Amendment, and item number 3, ordinance number 2025-018, Irrigation and Landscaping Regulations. If there's anyone here in the audience who would like to speak to this item, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to these 2 items. Yes.
Joe Famasi, Wellness Way. I have a problem with 2518. for landscaping irrigation regulations. In the city currently, a section of my city, we're being required to dig 3 wells in our community to create our own irrigation system. So St. John says we need to save water, but they agreed with the city to have us have to dig wells. So I'd like to ask, how many of you here are on City of Clermont water for your irrigation? Because we're being forced off of it. You're not?
Do we have to answer that, Mr. Chairman?
No,
Yeah.
he's
Just a question.
It's just more of a rhetorical question, I think. 'Cause,
Yeah. So I was there at the discussion and the hearing for when the city put this together. There was no discussion about reclaimed water. I'd asked that the 2025-18 be amended to compel the city to look at reclaimed water and other resources, because this just addressed residents, not commercial. So it seems like you're putting more of a tax burden on the residents for this issue. I mean, really, there was no water discussion of maybe creating cheaper water sources. I know reclaimed water, there's less regulations to it. It doesn't have to be regulated during droughts, which causes less work for the city to have to go out there and enforce this. So I thought that we should be focusing on something like that instead of worrying about creating more regulations. How about we look at something that can cause less regulations? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience who would like to speak to these items, number 1 and 2, ordinance 2025-017 and 2025-018? Seeing no one else, we'll bring it back to the commission. And for these items, we will start with Commissioner Tadona.
I have no questions, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner May.
On the City of Clermont landscape standards, section 2 applicability, it says landscape standards shall apply to all new development and redevelopment within the city with the following exceptions. So my question is it all development, as the gentleman was saying, commercial, residential, mixed use,
Yes,
PUD,
yes.
it's all?
Yes, all.
All.
We didn't single out residential.
Okay. Okay, so you already answered that one. The other question, I guess, comes back to the gentleman in regards to the wells. Is there anything that's going to be added?
That's a totally separate issue right now. I can't answer that. Yeah, I know there's efforts going on to work on that.
Okay, so there will be a separate section
sure,
dealing
yes,
with,
yeah.
that's what
I
I'm.
have no doubt, but I just don't have that information.
Okay, so as long as we understand, because I know that he's saying that wells were, I guess required in wellness way, so I hope that that area gets a section within the landscaping in the future,
Well, look,
so.
I know there's other efforts out there looking at all kinds of reclaimed options and all as well, but I just don't want to mislead you right now and tell you one thing, and
Right.
because I don't have that specific.
So this is a working document.
Yes,
So I just wanted to hopefully reassure you that it's a working document, and I'm putting it
Absolutely,
on a
yeah,
record that it's a working document, and that I hope that the people at Wellness Way will be that there's something different for them here to help, since the wells were put in. So, yeah, the only thing that I have are just some added language, like you were doing the accent versus understory to accent. I think it's, it's a good start, Kurt. I really went through it. I know I had asked a lot of questions with him because I was kind of confused, especially not having the landscape standards. And so it's just grammar things that are added. So in regards to that, I don't have, let me double check here. Make sure. Nope. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Colby.
I have nothing else.
Commissioner Nemec?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I do. On 202517, I would like to start with that one. All right, Mr. Kurt Henschel, I'm looking at this, if you could see what I have. All right.
The
And-
list?
Yeah, the list.
Yeah.
And I compared it to the email you sent to us. So I did look at that. Just for the record, we're removing all of this from understudy trees.
Everything that's got a strike through,
A strike
yes.
through. Okay, good. Thank you for justifying that to me on the record. Okay, on page 32, confused.
Can you tell me what section that, because I don't have my
Oh, I'm
pages
sorry,
numbered.
that's
right.
section 4, subsection 6, it looks like. Palms, it starts off, commercial use.
123-42 is the
Thank you.
section.
Oh,
That's what-
I'm
yeah, that's
sorry.
what I mean. 42, gotcha, we're going backwards.
I'm
Hang on
sorry,
one
thank you, Mr.
second.
Chairman.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
My hearing's going. Okay, so anyway, you see 6 where it says palms, the next one for residential and commercial use. All right, I just want clarification where you say 2 palms, trees can count as 1 canopy or understory, Jesus. So you're telling me, at this point, we don't have to replace it, for example, for magnolia or an oak. We could replace it with 2 palms.
You're under the residential and commercial use, correct?
Correct.
As long as they meet the size requirement here, yes.
Wow. I guess I'm a little year too late for that one. I like that one. Okay, getting to 2025-18. All right. Honestly, I'm not a fan of Wellness Way. I know what these poor residents are going through, but he made a comment, and I will tell you that if there is a drought, we do have restrictions, and the city of Clermont does come. All right, the city of Clermont is very diligent with their water. Matter of fact, they're changing all our water meters to be more accurate. Okay, matter of fact, if you're using irrigation a little too much, it's going to cost you. So we do have, so to clarify, you thinking that we're getting a free break, we're not. They're just as diligent. I do feel for your residents. I know what you're going through, but water went up. Everybody in my neighborhood's complaining about it. So I just want to, try to make your heart a little eased on this. No other questions, Mr. Chairman, for now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Chairman Bain. Mr. Henschel, under 2025-017, maybe I'm just confused, but I saw what we can't put in. I saw all the strikeouts for preferred canopies and everything. Is there a list of what is preferred now?
Yeah, that's what, everything's been
that was in the
switched
addendum
over to
packet?
this, yes.
Okay, that was the clarification, then, thank you. And then I'm just gonna say for the gentleman, I live in a development where we are well-fed, and we're taxing our wells quite heavily lately, and I actually reached out to the city about wood, and we are right near downtown, and looking at could we do reclaimed water, and there's no lines in that area, and the amount of money it would cost to put those lines in, even though we're really close to downtown center, was staggering. So we're going to repair our wells and keep working on them as long as we can. No other questions, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hoisington?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. I don't have any questions on 17. I think those are relatively just kind of self-explanatory, not adding new regulations, if you will, or changing regulations. We're just changing some words and removing some items from the ordinance to an actual document that if and when we need to change, it can be changed through that resolution process. If we look at number 18, so I had some questions with regard to how this applies to Clermont and our surrounding communities and others in the St. John's River Water Management District. And Mr. Henschel, correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that the St. John's Water Management District is looking to redo or revise our CUP, our conditional use with them, to mandate that we move from 35 inches a year to 28 inches a year.
You are correct. Yeah.
And that's something that they are assessing with every community that they provide water for irrigation purposes.
Yes.
That they're going to be decreasing and making those adjustments to those that cap for all users of
Right,
the water
of the
in that
water,
community.
right, that's correct.
And then, two, I think just making sure folks understand and realize that the compost material and the limiting the amount of sod. One of the questions I had for Mr. Henschel was, if we're trying to encourage Bahia, well, isn't Bahia sod? It's not. Sod is what we would consider to be like a St. Augustine or zoysia grass.
Right.
The Bahia, because it's a natural Florida drought tolerant, is that the right word?
Yeah,
right phrase?
drought tolerant,
Resistant, drought tolerant. It's not considered sod. And so in these new developments, once this gets put into place and new developments come in, whether commercial or residential, industrial, et cetera, they would have to follow these requirements, and that would eliminate the amount of nice green stuff that they would have to have, if you want to just kind of put it in simplistic terms, on their property, with something that's more naturally occurring, that's meant to die off when it's drier and come back when it's wetter. Is that right?
You're correct, yes.
Okay. What kind of educational campaign, once this goes through City Council and this gets approved, what kind of educational campaign will there be for the community?
Yeah, our PIO is currently working right now on a campaign to make sure everyone's aware of this.
Okay.
I don't have the details, but yes, we know we need to do some campaigning and advertising.
Yeah, and I think that because we may be one of the first communities, because we are the biggest community in Lake County and South Lake County, obviously, we may be one of the first that's doing this with the St. John's, and so our residents may not get the benefit of hearing their friends in Groveland or Mascot or elsewhere dealing with this, and so I think it's going to behoove us to really make sure we push this out so that folks understand some of these things apply to just new developments, but other aspects of it, particularly of Ordinance 018, do apply to existing properties, which would specifically be the inches per year.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, okay.
As another little note as well, Lake County is following our suit to do this exact same amendment to their code as well.
Okay. And then just to kind of get some clarification, because I know that people ask, like, what happens, how does the city know if somebody is irrigating against the regulation, whether it's day, time of day, length per zone? How does that work? How do we know, and how does that work for the city to address that?
We actually have software that can tell us what's happening. They can get it down to if your toilet's leaking, really.
Sure.
And so they compare it to hours that it's using water, and they can tell when you're using irrigation. So we have a software program for that.
Okay, and then there's like a notice that goes out
Yes.
to the resident at that point. Okay.
Yes.
And with the irrigation, if someone has a community that has a private well, or even a residence that has a private well for irrigation, are they required to still abide by the same ordinances regarding irrigation within their municipality or county if they don't live
individual
in a municipality?
residents wouldn't have its own well. I mean, there's been a singular case out there maybe, but code doesn't really allow for a single house to have its own well.
Sure.
So
But what about for a neighborhood, like a residential or a HOA community
it
that
would
has?
apply, yes.
So they still have to follow it,
They
even
would have
though
to
they're
follow
in a well and not drawing from the
Correct.
city's water. It's
That's right.
still drawing from the aquifer, if you will,
That's
in that
right,
regard.
yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, I think those are the only other questions I had. I think, we're moving in the right direction in terms of allowing maybe more drought tolerant landscaping in our neighborhoods. Now, obviously, HOAs are going to have some final says in what, if someone wanted to do a complete, rock xeriscape yard or what do you call it, the turf grass. You know, our ordinances would allow some things like that, but you have to obviously work with your stormwater runoff.
Right, that's
but,
right.
But you also have to work within your HOA to do something kind of beyond what the code is allowing.
That's correct. Yes.
But I'm appreciative of the fact that the city's taking a step to say, we want to try to provide a place here where we're doing our part to not use as much water as regularly, and to really encourage and promote Florida native and Florida friendly plants and landscaping in our designs up front. And maybe as newer developments do occur and people who live in existing neighborhoods see, wow, I didn't realize I could do something that nice with more drought tolerant types of plants and landscaping, that they'll go back to their HOAs if they're in one, or go back to the people that they share their household with and say, hey, this may be something we need to do, because even though it's a maximum, doesn't mean you have to use it. And if you can cut down on that, we all know that water rates are pretty high. And probably for the foreseeable future, if we can all try to do that, it helps our pocketbook, but it also helps the aquifer system too. So, all right, thank you. Any other final comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Yeah, please.
And thank you for bringing up the public information. I think that's
Yeah.
very important, especially since the ordinance is changing. A lot of people have to get educated on this. And I think there's an opportunity as well for the city to deal with the this St. John's Riverwood Management and American Forest, and I can name a few, to assist with the PIO in doing tree giveaways. We did that. We did a lot of tree giveaways in Miami-Dade County. And so there's a lot of organizations, and I think it might be a nice touch.
We've done it here before too.
Yeah, so I think it'll be
We
great.
just did that.
To encourage, you'll get more people to come out because they're getting a free tree, but they're also getting educated. So I think that might be a nice, but I thank you very much for bringing up that,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
public information part of it.
Okay. Is there a motion for item 2, ordinance 2025-017?
I can do it. I have do a motion here to approve ordinance number 2025-017, Land Development Code Amendment.
And would that be with the changes of anywhere where we see understory to change?
Yes,
access?
with, thank you.
Yes.
So that is approving ordinance number 2025-017, Landscape Development Code Amendment, with the changes of understory to accent.
Okay.
And that would be on page 32
On the top, right.
at the top.
Is there a
Plant material.
second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Seconded by Commissioner Hoisington. Any final discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries 7-0. Now we move on to item number 3, ordinance number 2025-018. Is there a motion for that?
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2025-018.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Kramer. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hoisington. Any final discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries 7-0. Is there any discussion of any non-agenda items? And I should say too, for the record, these ordinances will go to the city council, and they will have their reading and a vote. If they decide not to take it up at the first time, they'll have a vote at the second meeting where they will have the final say. So it'll be our recommendation. Okay? Seeing no other business, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.